Our first guest we've had on the show before, and she is a fascinating lady. I enjoy reading through her website and her work. Dr. Rita Louise is here with us. Dr. Louise is a best-selling author and medical intuitive. She also is the host of Just Energy Radio and the founder of the Institute of Applied Energetics. Fran Drescher's delivery without the wine is how one audience member put Dr. Rita's frank, funny, yet honest approach. Dr. Rita possesses the caliber of knowledge and experience that organizations demand. Dr. Louise influences every engagement with both credibility and content. She has the unique ability to deliver a serious message through intriguing stories and her own brand of humor. Her high-content presentations and down-to-earth strategies empower and motivate audience members. A frequent consultant to the media, Dr. Rita Louise has appeared on television and has been a featured guest on many radio shows such as Coast to Coast, Veritas Radio, Jerry Pippin Show, X Zone Radio, Mysterious Universe Radio, Contact Radio. The list goes on and on and on. We had the honor to have her on before, and she's coming back tonight. She's appeared as a keynote speaker at events such as the Paradigm Symposium, Whole Life Expo, ASPE Paranormal Symposium, and the Texas Ghost Show. She's a regular contributor to publications including Ancient America, New Dawn Magazine, Atlantis Rising, Inlight Times, and The Edge News. Her alternative health articles have also appeared in publications such as Fate Magazine's Today's Dallas Woman, Inner Self Magazine, Holistic Health News, and the Psychic Journal. She has done a lot. Without any further delay, let's go ahead and get her on the phone. Dr. Rita, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk and the Fringe Radio Show.
Hey, Pat. Thanks for having me back. Excited to be here again.
Well, I am too, and thanks for understanding the last time when I screwed up and I told everybody. It was kind of a running joke. Well, not a joke, but we actually had Dr. Rita scheduled, and right after the first of the year. And when I scheduled her, I did one of those things. I didn't change the year on my calendar, so we had to kind of go through a time warp. But thank you so much for taking time out of your evening and being here with us tonight.
Well, really, this is 2015, right?
Oh, don't start that, please. I'm confused enough. It's 2016, I'm sure.
Come on, I want to be a year younger. Let's go back to like 1973.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Well, you're only 29, though, so you weren't even born then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, how are you doing? And again, thanks for being here tonight. And I don't have anything. I just want to go all over the place and talk about all kinds of stuff. It's a unique time to be alive and experience things. I want to talk about your radio show and your work and your website, and let's just have some fun.
Well, that sounds great to me, and I'm doing good. You know, as you can see from my bio, it's like I'm constantly busy.
You are,
but I love it. So well, it's all good.
That's good. It's better to be busy and instead of idle, for sure. What are you working on currently? What's the hot topic? What can we get into first?
Well, I mean, what I'm working on right now, like the current project, is a new video, and then I have a book coming right behind. I'm on page 17.
Okay, that's a good start.
Of another book. The video, the working title is Alien Gods, and the working title of the new book, which people are loving already, and I'm like, okay, I guess I need to get moving on it, is Close Encounters of the Ancient Kind.
Oh, interesting. Which I would say that title, the book is going to look back in time.
Yes. What it's going to do is look at the mythological record and the stories that we find in myth and compare what is described in their stories to what we find in contemporary ufology.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this, while we're talking about ancient times. You know, of course, the one subject that comes up, let's talk about the pyramids, okay? And, you know, there's many people that say that the pyramids could have never been built with the technology of that time, which I tend to lean toward, and that they had some sort of help. And, of course, you know, when we have the skeptics of the world out there, who debunk well, not skeptics, but the debunkers that say, you know, there's no such thing as aliens and UFOs and all this other stuff. and people start to do more digging into this whole subject, and we look back at pictures that are hanging in the Vatican. Watch a movie. One of the great movies that enlightened me at a very young age was Chariots of the Gods, or Chariot of the Gods, and we look back and the proof is just, it's there. It's all over the place. And yet so many people want to say, nah, that was nothing. But we see pictures of flying saucers and rocket ships and hieroglyphs, and it's just amazing how much is right in front of our eyes.
I totally agree with you. In my book, E.T. Chronicles, one of the things that I talk about in that book is the book was written for the Western world. When I sat down to start writing, I realized that I had to kind of back my story up and put in a preface, because when you go into the East, China, India, Japan, you come into the Americas, they believe in star gods. They believe in what we would now call extraterrestrials existing. It's only in the Abrahamic religions that there's a belief in one God and, for most of the people, one book. And anything that deviates out of that book, they don't want to believe in.
Right.
But if you start looking at other stuff, other books, it's everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere.
Why do you think people are so closed mind to the whole subject? Why do you think people, there's so many, I guess it's the degree, so many people, I believe, are starting to open their eyes. They're becoming more self-aware. They're experiencing things. As I've said many times, people are starting to question things. But there still is a big group of people out there that don't believe. I mean, they're so closed mind to it. And yet more and more stuff is coming out. Why do you think such the closed-mindedness? You think it's maybe the fear of things?
Well, I think that we were all brainwashed. And they have to admit that there's something else. You want to do like a little quiz, a brainwash quiz?
Sure.
And everybody in the listening audience can participate because it's really easy. But I'm going to ask a question, and I want you to give the first answer that comes to mind. Okay? Has to be the first answer that comes to mind. Who discovered America?
Christopher Columbus.
Now, most people that's the first thing that will come to mind. And the more enlightened of us might throw out, the Vikings, or, if you're really up there, the Native Americans. A lot of people forget them. But even with those individuals, the first thing that comes to mind is Christopher Columbus, because that is what has been drummed into our mentality. And so to step away from that and own that the Vikings were here 500 years before Columbus, not first, but 500 years before Columbus, is even challenging for people to be open to, even though there's evidence of it.
Right. That's true.
Skip extraterrestrials.
Well, I think sometimes, but that's what was, and my answer to you on that was, I think that's what so many of us learned at such a very young age. We didn't look beyond that. That's who discovered America, Christopher Columbus. But yes, you're correct. There is a lot more to it than that.
Mm-hmm. And I think, where we came from and the concept of God, in these other cultures, when you move out of the Abrahamic religions, they have multiple gods. Right. It's only in that group that you have one solitary God and some angels flying around. And that's it.
True.
And so it's challenging to have gods battling each other or gods doing these things, because there weren't gods, plural. There was one.
Well, in the definition and the meaning of God too, is people open their eyes more. If I could digress just for a second, myself, I was raised. I hail from Chicago. I was raised in an Italian family. We went to church every day. My mother, God love her, she's 93. She still goes to church every day. And, we didn't stray from things, being raised Catholic. This is just how it was, because that's how it was for my grandmother and my great-grandmother and my great-great-grandmother, and it was passed down. And that's just how it was. We just took it at face value. But I believe that people nowadays, which I think is a good thing, are starting to question things. They're starting to ask more of the why, and maybe some of those beliefs that they believed in for many years or even their whole lifetime are starting to be questioned by the introduction of so many different things. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's one of the first things that's starting to break the ice a little bit. Again, it's that open-mindedness, but there's still so many closed-minded people.
And I agree. I was brought up Catholic. Went to Catholic school for 8 years. Didn't go to church every day, thank God. And but in our house, it was very interesting. My mom was a sci-fi person, so we grew up watching Star Trek and One Step Beyond. And she's the one that sent us to the movie theaters to go see Chariots of the Gods.
Yeah. And back in years back, that's something that people at that time didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in general, I should say.
So, but I think it's changing slowly but surely. It's changing, and that's good. I think back 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the whole notion of ghosts. I worked as a house healer, an intuitive house healer. That was one of the many intuitive things that I did, where I would go to people's houses and do clearings, which there's really not a lot of demand for, because people don't really understand it, short of having a priest come and bless your house. And but then the concept of ghost hunting started to become popular, and I was invited with different ghost hunting groups to be their psychic investigator, which was cool because it was kind of like going and doing a house healing. You know, the skill set was basically the same.
Right.
And since that time, it has become a whole lot more okay to say, I think I saw a ghost, or I think there's a ghost in my house, or something like that, where even just this short time ago, it was still kind of ixnay for a lot of people.
Well, true. How did you, Dr. Rita, when you, with your gifts, your abilities, when did those come to light for you? When did you start to realize that, I have something here. I have something that's a little unique?
I was a little older. I had always been interested. Actually, the two earliest things that I really got into were archaeology and anthropology, and then right behind that was learning to be psychic. I wanted to be psychic, and started reading and studying, and realized that I wasn't very psychic. And then found the Berkeley Psychic Institute. I was an adult. I was working and studied with them. But after being in their program for a very short period of time, like 3 weeks, I realized that I had been extremely psychic my whole life. And so when I walked up to this gentleman at work, because he wasn't in the day before, and looked him in the face and said, well, where were you yesterday, having them check for a brain tumor? And that was where he was the day before.
Wow.
Oops. And little things like that I had done my whole life, all of that weirdness came into perspective.
Let me ask you, so when that was kind of your first, I guess if you want to call it your first experience, how did that come to you? Was it intuition? Was it something that you saw? Myself, I can honestly say that I know there are some experts or some people that say everybody has psychic abilities. I've had some deja vu. I think we all have. For me, deja vu is maybe looking at something a certain way. I've actually had that here in the radio station, looking through the producer's window at the computer, and I'm like, wow, I've seen that before, exactly that way I've looked at it. But it's just, for me, it's just been brief seconds here and there. But strong enough that when I see it, it triggers. I mean, it's something that's strong enough that says, hey, wait a minute, you've seen this exactly this way before. How did it come to you? How did that, knowing that he had this illness, how did that come to you?
Well, I mean, let me just give a little background. There are different channels that people receive information. So my primary channel is that I'm very visual. So when I work with people on health levels, I'm actually looking inside their body for inflammation or a torn tissue, or looking at their cells, or very, very visual. I'm very visual. But there's also a channel called claircognizance, or knowingness, where you just know things off the top of your head. And it's associated with the seventh chakra, or the chakra that sits on the top of the head. I joke around and say my seventh chakra is directly connected to my mouth. And so it comes in and out unfiltered. And usually when it comes out that way, it's always true. Always, always.
Do you know that it's coming, or is it something? I mean,
no, it's usually a smart ass comment that I'm making to someone, but it's always true. Yeah, I have stories.
Do you? Well, let me ask you this: Do you think that it's? Now you did mention it to being a smart ass comment. Do you think that gift that you have? Maybe some call it a gift, maybe some call it a skill that you've honed, but obviously, being that it may be a little cynical, it's so strong, and maybe that's the gift, that it is so strong. That's why you make the smart ass comment. It's almost, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's almost uncontrollable because it's so strong. You got to get it off your chest. You got to let people know about it. You think that it could be tied to that some way?
I don't know. I've never really looked at it that way. I do know that when it comes through on that channel, I'm not controlling it. I mean, it's almost like I'm being possessed, Pat, and someone's just speaking through my mouth. I mean, there have been a few times where I've made some comment and I'll be like, did I just say that? But then again, I know it's like totally true, because it's usually stuff people don't want you to know. This was a huge secret with that guy. It was a huge secret.
Right.
I worked at one company, and the manager, I'll try to keep this very brief, but my manager, I was in California, and he was moving to Arkansas, landlocked state, and he had a seafaring boat, that had to be docked. So it wasn't like he could put it on a trailer and take it to Arkansas for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like leaving in like a month, and his boat caught fire and sank.
Wow.
And he was telling me this story that his boat caught fire and sank. And I just looked at him and went, some Jewish lightning. Okay, so before everybody in the audience goes, oh my God, what did she just say? So on the East Coast, there's this kind of slang thing where if you set your own building on fire to collect the insurance money,
right?
That's Jewish lightning. It's Jewish lightning. I think he set his boat on fire. I didn't ask him. He never confirmed it, but it came through on that channel. And after I said it, I'm like, oh my God, he's the kind of guy that would do that too. I mean, he was the kind of guy that would do it.
Interesting. Well, and that's a pretty direct to the point statement, I guess. Again, that's why I asked you.
I wish I could control it. You know, it just comes when it comes. Sometimes that's not the most opportune moment.
I hope you're never at a restaurant or something and somebody comes in with their mistress. And you just point them out. You never know. You never know. But that's good. But see, again, I always believe that honesty is the best policy. And I think that's a great thing. When you do your healing work, when you work with your clients, now you talk about, you see tissue, you see issues. Do you see that in, and I'm just trying to understand it. I really am, because I've asked so many people, so many psychics, it's like, how does this come across to you? Does it come across in a subliminal message? Do you get some sort of a picture? I mean, even when people have talked about, being abducted, and they're shown different things, but yet there's no communication, no interaction. I try to grasp that. But in your practice in working with people, do these colors, I would assume there's colors involved, do they become very vivid? Is there, if you're working with a client that has an issue with a particular organ in their body, does it stick out somehow? You know what I mean? I mean, in your view, in your mind, do you see something very bright or dark?
I mean, okay. Prior to me going back to school and getting my naturopath degree, which forced me to have to take an anatomy and physiology class, when I was doing, this was when I was Rita the Psychic Chick versus Dr. Rita the Medical Intuitive. Okay? Tracking with me here?
I am.
And so I would work with people, and I remember this one client, and I'm working with her, and I get to this spot on her back, and I'm like, well, I think there's something going on with your kidney. But I wasn't really sure where her kidney was. So now I'm sitting in my chair kind of looking around, leaning in my chair like I'm looking around her back, which was impossible because she was facing me. And I'm like, yeah, that's your kidney. I go, and there's just this black energy. And that was really all the information I could give her, was there was this black energy, and then talk about the emotional part. But having taken the anatomy and physiology, I have an understanding of, this is what a healthy kidney should look like. And this is what a kidney is supposed to do. So I'll look at, is there inflammation? Is it red? Does it feel hot? Fluids are supposed to move through it. How is the fluid actually moving through it? And I go through kind of this little checklist, and it's very visual. It is extremely visual. So it's not really color unless there's some kind of dysfunction going on. But it's like looking at an anatomy or a pathology book, except it's in my head.
Well, many believe, and I would assume that you believe, that we are ultimately all made of energy, or energy flows through us. And if there is an organ in the body, if there's something that is, the energy can't flow through properly because it's not working properly, it's just like having a burnt finger, or a throbbing tooth. I would assume that it kind of disrupts everything.
Well, Pat, it's all just energy.
Case in point, no more to talk about tonight.
Well, when I started my radio show, my original thought was that the show was going to be about health and healing and psychic stuff, and that lasted for about 6 months, and I got totally bored of it. And it's like, we're moving on to something that is more interesting, which is, then we brought in like the ancient mysteries and the UFOs and the crypto, kind of like your show,
right?
And really moved away from the health stuff. I didn't find it interesting, which I find interesting because that's what I do for, like my day job.
But it all kind of ties back together, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. I mean, it is, and I could see, and that is your day job, and I could see, again, I could understand the experience, again, of something. I think when we have something in our bodies that's really going wrong, when one part of the body is malfunctioning, whatever part that may be, whether, again, it's a tooth, whether it's a cold, an infection, an organ that's not working, whatever, a bone that's broken, we sense it, we know it. We may want to, I think human nature wants to look the other way. You feel something that's not quite right, and you go, I don't want to think about it. I think it scares most people away. But But again, I feel, and what you just stated, it is energy. It flows through everything, and when there's a disruption in the flow, something is going to signal that.
Well, and with that, it needs to even be taken to one level deeper.
Mm-hmm.
When we have an accident and we break our arm's broke. And it really doesn't have to do with energy movement. Like, our bad energy didn't break our arm.
Right.
You know, I mean, there might be karmic implications, but I'm not even going to go there. But when we experience high blood pressure, when we experience diabetes, when we experience cancer, there is always, or in the vast majority of cases, some emotional, some psycho-spiritual aspect of ourself that is keeping us from allowing that energy to move. And over time, it will actually manifest through the energetic self into the physical body. And so when I'm working with someone, one of the things that I help them to understand is, what was the emotional thing that triggered the lack of flow? You know, was it a relationship breakup 10 years ago? Was it because you didn't get that red bike that you wanted for Christmas when you were 8 years old? And trust me, I've had that come up.
Right.
We don't think about it. We're not taught to recognize our emotional self, but the emotional self is the part that creates the vast majority of disease.
Welcome back to Fringe Radio. Tonight our guest is Dr. Rita Louise. Dr. Rita, again, thank you so much for taking time to be here with us tonight.
Well, I'm enjoying what we're talking about, so let's keep going.
Okay. Depression. Let's talk about depression, because something, and I would like to get your take on it. Depression, I never believed could really physically manifest itself, but I am a believer in that. How it can physically break a person down, both mentally and physically. Your thoughts on depression, and maybe this kind of even stems back to, like you said, someone at a young age didn't get that red bicycle they wanted, or they had that horrific relationship that broke up, and it just throws the whole body into a tailspin, and then of course all the mental issues that go along with that.
I'm assuming for your listeners, if I use the chakra word, they're going to be tracking, for the most part, tracking with me.
Okay.
Well, that was a question, Pat.
Are they? Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. People that experience depression usually have an issue with the third chakra. So the third chakra is the energy center that sits in the stomach area. And it has to do with our ability to use power. And people that are depressed, instead of their energy flowing outward, it's actually trapped in their body, and they kind of like turn themselves inward. On a more functional level, many times people that are depressed have issues going on with their liver. Their liver might be congested and stagnated, need some cleansing. That would usually be something that I would work with someone that is depressed. And from Chinese medicine, the liver is often associated with anger. And so someone that is depressed usually has a lot of unresolved anger that they've actually, instead of using that third chakra to send it out and lash out on someone else, they turn it in on themselves, and it congests and congeals in the body.
And I would assume builds up strength. I mean, like a tidal. I mean, like a wave, like a tsunami. It just keeps building and building and building.
But that has the implication that it's going to go somewhere.
Okay.
People that have depression, it's more like a clogged drain. You know, it's really not going anywhere. It's just become congested. Goopy. Not very fun. You know, I mean, because with a tsunami, you know, you think about that force behind it. People that have healthy anger energy, you know who they are. It's like they can take that energy and they can project it. People that are depressed cannot project anger. They can maybe project sadness or be sad, but they hold on to that anger, you know, and where they hold on to it is in the liver gallbladder complex.
And that just keeps, well, how do you get rid of the depression? Obviously, when it's affecting those organs of the body, it's throwing the whole body into turmoil.
Well, I think, you know, helping them to understand what they're angry about, what the emotional piece, I mean, because for each of us, it's what happened to me. It's about my life. It's not, you know, like Louise Hay, she has, if you have this, this is what it means. And it's a great general guideline. I mean, I love that book if I'm a little stumped or, you know, just to have as a quick reference. But it's not necessarily personal to me. And so helping the person understand why they're not letting the anger out. That would be one. And also with someone that's depressed, I would really recommend doing some liver cleansing. You know, when we're talking about depression, we're talking about the emotional energy. But if they've been depressed for a while, usually there is residual sitting in the liver. And so supporting the liver and doing some liver cleansing can often help to kind of shift that energy and start to break it up a little bit. If you think about it from an energy spectrum, the physical body is the lowest vibration, and then our causal body, there are 4 bodies or 5 bodies, is the highest vibration. And so by dealing with the physical body, when you're dealing with the emotional part, you're dealing with the emotional body. So you're dealing with it in 2 different areas, and I find that really helps to break it up a lot faster.
So so what you're saying is you need to detoxify.
Many times detoxification will help, but to really heal it, you have to understand where the depression is coming from in the first place. Now, there are some individuals that do have brain chemistry issues, okay? But the percent of people that have brain chemistry issues versus their stuff going on in their life that's just not right is vastly different. And the people with the brain chemistry issues usually have an ongoing, long-standing history of depression, short of they grew up in a dysfunctional family, like a really dysfunctional family.
Do some of those brain issues, you know, one thing that I've often commented on is people that have psychological issues. Of course, today it is very sad, and this state is one of the leaders in writing a prescription for a drug to be induced. I know that the state of Utah has got one of the highest prescription rates of antidepressants being written. I mean, across the country, it's off the charts here, and people are hooked on these antidepressants because it's so easy. It's so easy to just go ahead and write a script instead of working with somebody. In people that have psychological issues, I've often wondered many times, you know, are these people that I mean, there's schizophrenics and people that have bipolar disorders. I mean, that's all out there, and I experienced that with a family member in my lifetime, and all I can tell anyone who has to deal with it or experience it, it's, as you know, I don't have to tell you, it's a horrific thing. It's sad. It can anger everybody. It can throw everybody into a tailspin. I think it can help bring on depression for others around it because it's so hard. But I also wonder sometimes these people that are so easily diagnosed as having a psychological disorder, maybe they have some special gifts. Maybe they see things that other people don't see. And it comes to them so strong, sort of along the lines of, like you said, when you feel strong, when something when something comes to you that takes over, like you said, your smart ass comments come out. It's uncontrollable. That's something that's very strong. I mean, it's driving it. It's overriding things that you would maybe normally not say or even think. And I sometimes wonder if people that are diagnosed with psychological disorders, if that's something that they have, but they can't control it.
That's a great observation, Pat. My observation, I'm going to use your two examples, individuals with schizophrenia and individuals with bipolar disorder. They both have chakra issues. They have chakras that are blown out. Okay, so the chakras, the energy centers, are supposed to be able to open and close like a camera lens, just open and close. And individuals that are schizophrenic will have one or more of their chakras that are open more than 100%, and they're not able to close. So they're not able to filter information. And so, yeah, they can see invisible people. Why? Because there are invisible people walking around. Hello, ghosts.
Right.
You know, they can't filter. They can't separate out. This is cognizant reality. This is our agreed upon reality, and this is outside of our agreed upon reality. People with bipolar have it very interesting because they have a very specific chakra issue where their seventh chakra, that one that I was talking about, that mine is connected to my mouth, that's where they have the issue. It will open up really, really big, and they channel in all of this energy. So people that are channelers, that's usually where they connect to their higher source or whatever they're connecting to. And they can bring in all this energy, and depending on how big it is, they might feel like God. And then something will happen, and that chakra will shut down really tight, and they go into an automatic depression. Bam.
I can imagine.
It's a very interesting syndrome. People that are schizophrenic, it's a little challenging working with them if the disorder is not that great. Doing some very heavy-duty energy work with them might help, might move them out of it. People with bipolar disorder actually can learn, in my opinion, to control what's going on with them if they really wanted to, if they were taught how to do it, and get to a place where they could be on a very minimal amount of medication.
Well, I think that's the big problem, is that, in today's world, these people are so overly medicated, and then when the medication starts to wear off, and I don't want to say they're coming down, but I guess that's the only way to put it, it's black and white. There's no transition. It seems like they're okay, and then wow, they just flip over to the other side, and of course that tends to raise red flags for people around them and their families, and it changes the whole playing field. It's sad. It really is sad, and anybody that doesn't understand, if you've never had to deal with it, dealing with a family member or that has mental issues, it's an eye-opening experience to go through it, and it's taxing on everybody, especially if you're trying to help and if you don't understand it. I think it's when people don't understand it that the fear sets in and then anger sets in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, but I also agree with your comment about people are being over-medicated today. I mean, if you go to the doctor, there's almost an expectation that you're going to walk out with a prescription. If they really can't find anything wrong with you, it's antibiotic or antidepressant. You walk out with one or the two.
Right.
And that's just a really sad state. And I don't know, I could go on and on and on and on, Pat.
Oh no, but I mean again, I believe that today, I mean people, I think that the medical profession, people really need to take a look at things and look outside of the box. In my situation with a family member, it was somebody who was put on antidepressants, and then they kicked him cold turkey. And let me tell you something, that is just something you don't want to do. That is like that you just hit a brick wall, and that's exactly what happened with a family member who actually the antidepressants were working for a while, and actually saw an improvement. It's like, wow, this is amazing. They truly are happy pills. They do make it. They do change people. But then when the person starts to realize that something is going on inside, and they decide, hey, I don't like this. I want to be rid of this. I want to get rid of these pills because here's a feeling or an emotions or whatever it may be that are taking over that I've never felt before. So I'm going to throw them in I'm going to flush them down the toilet. I'm done with them. I've experienced it firsthand. It's like going off the edge of a cliff.
And then there's the reverse side where doctors will prescribe some kind of medication for something that they kind of guess may be wrong with the person, but they don't really know. And they give them these pills, and then the person takes them for years. I just had a woman recently who was given, I don't remember what the drug was, but it was a diet drug.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was like addictive in nature. And she had been taking it for 12 years. And I'm like, how could you get, and she only weighed 120 pounds.
Wow.
And I'm like, how could you get a doctor to write you a prescription? She goes, they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah.
And I've had other people where they'll get prescriptions, and it's like, well, why are you taking something for X? You don't even have you don't have that. Well, 10 years ago, I had this, and they gave me the medication. It's like, well, didn't anybody ever evaluate what you're taking and tell you to stop taking that?
Our healthcare system is really messed up.
Yes, it is. It is.
It's really messed up, and I don't blame the doctors for it. I really don't. It's just it's the litmus test. It's the condition. It's the maze that they're thrown into. I believe that most medical professionals, have good intentions. They're trying to help people, but we've got big pharma out there that wants money. They want of course they want the doctors and healthcare providers to push more and more meds, because it equates to income and profit, and it's just crazy. And again, I think most people get into medicine for the right intentions, but you get caught up in the rat race of trying to help people. It's the it's the good and the bad fighting against, and it's all fun. All right, let's get back to our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is Dr. Rita Louise. Dr. Rita, again, as always, it's an honor to have you on the program, and thank you for taking time out of your busy weekend to be here with us.
Well, again, Pat, it's always good to be here with you as well.
I did, before the news break, again, you have a few websites out there. Let's talk about Just Energy Radio. When is Just Energy Radio on? When can our listeners tune into that and listen to it?
They can listen to it live on Thursday evenings from 8 to 9 p.m. Or they can go to the website, justenergyradio.com, or they can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Just Energy Radio on YouTube. They need a better way to describe YouTube channels, but it's Just Energy Radio on YouTube.
Yeah, well, and we have really, of course, we do the show here live on Saturday nights. We have it in archives on K-Talk and at the radio station's website. But I want to thank my friend Bill from out east, who has built our YouTube channel, and all the work that he has done for me and cleaned up, takes all the commercials out, takes all the news out, all the other stuff, just gets down to the pure interviews. But YouTube is surely where everybody is going nowadays. That is the hot thing. I'm in the IT business. That's what I do for my day job. And I was reading some stats on YouTube. Actually, on Friday, YouTube gets over 3 billion hits a day, and over 160 hours video uploaded on a per minute basis. It's absolutely it's astounding. But there's so much out there, and it's great to see shows like yours out there. People can go to your website, but they can go out to YouTube and they can listen to the review. Listen to the shows and stop them and start them, and it's a great thing.
And I think I have been putting shows on. I have like almost 500 episodes on YouTube. I mean, I've been doing it for 5 years now, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the first. How's that about putting my shows out on YouTube?
A pioneer.
Yeah, well, I was like, that's pretty easy. I can do that.
Now it's getting more complicated with these playlists and channels and all this other stuff, and now SEO is built into it. But it's an amazing place. It's an amazing gathering place.
It is, but I mean, I do my own webpage stuff too. So either you're banging your head against the desk because of one thing, or banging your head against the desk because of something else. So
I know. I've got a lot of black and blue marks. Now, your other website is soulhealer.com. Is that where our listeners can go if they would like to schedule time with you? Is that something that you offer?
Yes. I have too many sites, Pat. So they can go to soulhealer.com, and that's kind of the launch pad for all of my other sites. So if they want to get to the radio show, there's a link from there. If you want to schedule a time for a private consultation, you can do that there. My articles are on there, but I also have medical-intuitives.com.
Okay.
Medical-intuitives.com. So that one's mine too.
Gotcha.
And if they are interested in becoming and learning how to become a energy healer, intuitive counselor, or medical intuitive, I have another site, which is appliedenergeticsinstitute.com.
Wow. We just need to spin up drritalouise.com and throw everything in there.
Well, actually, I have ritalouise.com.
Oh, okay.
But that just takes you to the Soul Healer site.
Gotcha.
So.
Interesting.
And I can't ever say that. I don't know why.
Well, one thing that I like about your sites, and I've spent time going through stuff, taking notes. First of all, you've got a lot of great books out there, and I want our listeners to go out there, look at the site, check out the books, purchase the books. I assume they can get them there or on Amazon?
Correct.
Okay.
And, this is something that people have been really interested in. The last movie I did, Icon, Deconstructing the Archetypes of the Ancients, it's been out for just about a year, about a year. Amazon digital download, $1.99, Pat. You
Wow.
can't beat that. It's a full-length movie, so it's an hour long, a little over an hour long, $1.99. Bam.
Wow. Again, go check it out. Go to soulhealer.com. You can find it through the links. And again, your site has got a lot of information on it. Mine's just, I've got all the guests on mine, and I've got some feeds from NASA and JPL. But this site is, a person can park here and spend a lot of time, and you can learn a lot of things. But then again, I would love to see our listeners actually call you, schedule an appointment, get your books, support you, because again, these are important things. We can all learn something from this, and you have tons of insightfulness, and people need to get there and look at it and purchase it and support you.
Yeah.
Okay.
What Pat said.
So go buy stuff. Go over there and buy stuff is what I say. And then again, Thursday nights. We have a question that came through Inception Radio. Brenda sent in a question for you. And Brenda says, I would like to know how to determine if my anxiety is due to being empathic. Sorry. It's been a long day. I've always been intuitive, but after a near-death experience 20 years ago and a out-of-body experience, it's off the charts.
And Brenda, I agree with you. I mean, I think that, intuitive, empathic is just a different channel, like I was talking about earlier. There's our vision channel, and then there's our feeling channel. And so it sounds like your feeling channel really got bumped up. And I get the impression, and the way that you can separate the two out is if you go to a quiet place and perhaps meditate, or you're in the woods or laying by the pool and there's nobody there and it's just you by yourself, are you able to relax and kind of get back into yourself? Because if you are, which is my assumption, then it's because you are being hit with all of this energy of life going on around you, and your body's just not dealing with it real well. It's so common, and it's one of the hardest things to cut off. You know, Pat, we were talking a little earlier about people with mental disorders, and you hear from them when they take their medication is that they don't feel anything.
Right, right.
And for them, that is the feeling. That's what happens is, you know, that empathic feeling is kind of like our cat whiskers. And we use it to sense things around us, you know, to feel it out before we go into that situation. And when they take that medication, those feelings are cut off.
Right.
And I can't even imagine knowing what that would feel like, what that experience would be like. I don't think I would like it either.
Well, scary. And I think that is, I would say that fear is got to be of all of our senses, of all of our mental senses, if you want to call it. I mean, fear is got to be, especially at that level, has got to be horrific. You know, again, to be out of control, if you will.
Well, and it doesn't help that our medical establishment doesn't really understand what's going on. They can't give them any tools to work with. They make it sound like there's something bad or there's something wrong.
Right.
And I'm going to share a story, and please, I have permission to use this story.
Go ahead.
So when my husband was passing away, and the nurse came over, and I made some comment that I thought he was starting to hallucinate because he was talking about the light looked red, which was just, you know, like a wall light. You know, and he was making this comment about it looking red. And the nurse said, well, is he seeing anybody or hearing voices? And I said, well, I would assume that he would see people and hear voices. He is, you know, crossing over. What I didn't tell him was that my house was full of invisible ghost people that kept coming to my front door, driving my dog crazy. You know, only in my house do we have weird stuff like, well, not just my house, but, and he said, no, then he would be hallucinating. And I'm like, not in my world. Not in my world.
And another,
you know, hallucinating means you're seeing something that's not there, and there was people there. So it wouldn't be a hallucination to me.
Yeah. It's well, the whole subject of passing over it's very complex, I believe. I mean, maybe it's simple to some, but I think it's so complex. And one thing that I've said this many times on the program, so I'm probably always going to say it again, but you know, I think when we're younger, we're afraid of death. We're afraid to pass over. But I think as we get older, I'm not saying it's something we necessarily look forward to because we have, of course, our lives here on the planet and our families, but to me, it's more intriguing. And especially when you've been, let's say you're in a situation where many of your family members have passed, there's that, I don't know, in the back of your mind, there's that little thing saying, wow, I want to get there. I want to be with them. It's intriguing, and it's not as scary.
Mm-hmm.
But at a young age, it's scary.
Well, and I think today, more and more people have a somewhat different view of what's going to happen on the other side, or the potentiality of what's going to happen on the other side. And it's not, you know, you maybe will go to heaven, or you fire, you know, in brimstone for the rest of your existence forever. I think people are moving away from that concept of hell and eternal damnation.
I think that a definition of hell that I once heard, of course, my big fear my biggest fear is as a young person was passing away and being in that box 6 feet below the ground, and you can't move or nothing, but you know you're there. It's kind of like if you've seen Kill Bill, you know, the second Kill Bill where she's buried. I think that's, to me, that was that claustrophobic coffin she was in. I mean, that was horrific. That was worse than anything. But I think that I really believe, and I've heard this many times, that what I guess if you want to call the definition of hell on the other side is being responsible, not necessarily the guy with the you know, the poker and the red horns and the red face and all that, but is being able to face those people that you did wrong on this side, and being able to, I don't know if you want to call it, ask for forgiveness, but be able to survive with them, to be able to face them. I think that's, I don't want to say that's punishment enough, but it's something that you have to go through.
Well, you know, if it's your family, it might be.
Well, that's true. That's very true. When Edna's waiting there for you, you'll remember. No, I mean it. Again, I think that whole. Just I have to be honest and say that I'm not a very religious person. I am now a more spiritual person. I believe that, like a lot of others, going to that building on Sunday really is, I'm not saying that that's not good or that's not good for people, because I think some people need discipline. Some people need a place to go, a place of well-being, a place of need, it works for them. But so many people feel that after you walk out of that building and you go back home, that now it's okay to do anything. I think, being spiritual is about being kind to others, being understanding of others. Even if we judge, even if we jump to conclusions, it's about being understanding and again, being open-minded. Because I feel that when my journey ends here, and I move on, that it's just the start. And I feel that to some degree I've maybe been around this thing a few times. I sometimes wonder, with all the knowledge and thoughts that we all have, that we haven't all moved through this channel a few times.
Oh, I agree. I think I kind of look forward to what's going to happen. It would just be so much nicer if when we came into this body that we came with that information also. So it wouldn't be so scary, and we would know what we really needed to do. I mean, if it's this cycle and if it's about, us doing our work here, then I think people would maybe work a little bit more, on themselves, on making the world a better place, whatever it is, whatever we came here to do, but we don't know. And so we're all just kind of groping around through not knowing and doing a lot of hoping and praying that we're doing the right thing, if anything at all.
And about being kinder. Brenda sent in she actually sent the same question, and Brenda, Dr. Rita did answer it. Again, about how to determine about her anxiety. Do you want to just repeat one more time? She had to step out of chat for a second, and she popped back in again about her near-death experience and her out-of-body experience. And then she also states that the anxiety manifested sometime after it as well.
Okay.
After a near-death experience and an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, and I mean, people that have near-death experiences, and I'm going to just kind of talk in a more general sense, people that have near-death experiences often come back with all of their intuitive channels more open, so whether they're more clairvoyant, whether they're more kinesthetic or empathic or whatever, clairaudient. I mean, that is a normal thing for doing that. And so one of the things that I would just recommend is to start a spiritual practice, start meditating, so that when you come home at the end of the day, that you can start to shake loose all of the energy that you picked up from the rush hour traffic, from the people at work, from the woman over there that was in a bad mood, from your boss who's always cranky. Wherever you picked up this energy, It'll give you a chance to just let it go, because sometimes we don't realize that the energy we're reacting to is not even ours. And once we make that little mental note and go, wait a minute, this isn't even mine, we can just let it go like a hot potato.
There you go, Brenda. And I agree with you. I think that we do need to let things go. I think people harbor things for such a long time. And of course, some things get under our skin. That's just human nature. But again, trying to let it go and not harbor things or harbor experiences, or maybe sometimes just not trying to figure it out all the time, is not such a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about
Okay.
flying saucers and stuff. Now, I saw on your Facebook page that...
Oh, that's scary.
Pardon me?
I said, that's scary.
It is scary. No, it's not scary. I saw on your Facebook page that you had the opportunity to interview Miguel Mendonca. And I did too. Matter of fact, I interviewed him 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago. I did the interview off air, and I have to put it all together and replay it. We went for 2+ hours. I'll have to fit it in here one of these nights. But, of course, him writing his new book, working with Barbara Lamb, and working with hybrids, okay? We'll kind of swing over to the other side of the spectrum. Very interesting talking with him, and again, someone that is so highly accredited in the UK, and to step into this whole arena with Barbara, and the two of them wrote the book. I haven't had the opportunity to read the whole book.
Sorry.
You're okay. I didn't have the opportunity to read the book, but it was really eye-opening, and then I had the opportunity to have one of the hybrids on the show with him.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on hybrids? And boy, it just and ETs in general. Do you think that?
Well, I think that I have more of a comfort level with claims more like David Jacobs makes of people being abducted. I'm sorry, I have this like huge tickle in my throat right now. And experimentation happening and use of their genetic material. I have less of an issue with that in the big picture of hybrids. Actually, Miguel and I have become pretty good friends already, because we get into the chat mode. And but I kind of had a little bit of a problem with people who claim that they, are human but have all of this alien genetic material. I don't know. It just, and they don't have any testing to support it. Now, I'm going to back that up. I have worked with individuals who, from an intuitive perspective, will show that they're a mantis, like extraterrestrial mantis. I have worked with individuals that, that I can tell they had not incarnated on this planet very often. They're very uncomfortable. They have no social skills. They seem very clumsy and awkward. And so, and Miguel and I had a whole conversation about this, and I can see, based on the concept of reincarnation, that people have incarnated in places not on this planet, that people have incarnated on other planets more than they have incarnated on this planet. I have worked with individuals who were incarnating on this planet, and it seemed like they were like here investigating the Earth, but really had their allegiance to a different planet. That they were, but they were humans. And so it was more on a soul level, or in a soul contract, or just based on where their past lives were, but didn't have anything to do with who they were in this lifetime. Like they didn't have any weird genetic material because they were human.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense?
Yeah. Do you think there's some imposters out there or some people that are wishful thinkers?
Well, how blunt do you want me to be?
Oh, go ahead. Be as blunt as you want. Just remember, we're on AM radio, so don't go overboard.
Well, no, I'm not going to say anything like evil.
Okay.
I watched an interview with the hybrids. It was part of the UFO Congress. They were there with Barbara Lamb, and
Okay.
I don't know. They kind of all seemed really airy-fairy to me. All right, I come out of the airy-fairy psychic world. I know airy-fairy. They seem too airy-fairy to me, and it wasn't working for me.
So you didn't think that, well, be honest, maybe it was a sincerity issue, or do you think it was wishful thinking, or
Well, I
really
think
no
it
proof?
might be thinking that, something that they think. You have a show, have you ever interviewed any of the people that claim to channel Zeta Reticulans, or, they channel ancient masters, and, it just does, for me, I can't even go there because it just it's not working for me.
Well, yeah, I have, and I've had people that have claimed that there's this big, I've had people on the show that have claimed that there's these big intergalactic space agencies with Star Wars type spaceships.
Oh, the Galactic Federation and that whole thing.
Yeah. Now, okay, here's the thing. As I've said many times, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt because who knows?
No.
Who knows?
I'm hearing you.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you.
I mean, I can't swear, but someday I want to maybe go, holy crap, it is real.
Uh-huh.
Maybe somebody did abduct Gene Roddenberry years ago, and Star Trek and Star Wars and all that is just a glimpse to the future. What maybe is out there, and it's a great introduction. But yes, kind of being a logical person, some of these things, I want to believe. I do, but there are some things that sometimes I go, okay, that's a little bit deep. I guess I could see, yeah, maybe I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Even like the I was taught today. Matter of fact, when I did a presentation for MUFON today, we talked about the Mars jump room, there's a piece of me that says, oh, okay, maybe maybe. We're finding things on that planet. I know some skeptics are saying, well, it's just rock formations. Maybe it is. But then there's other things they're finding up there that look like it could be machinery.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But yes, I know what you're getting at.
Well, I'll give an example. I interviewed this woman actually twice. And the first time she came on, we were talking about her book about twin flames. And it was a channeled book, and I don't care for channeled material, but the way her book read, it just had this really high vibration to it. And I decided to have her come on. I liked the information that she had in her book, had her come on, good interview. And then she wrote another book about Jesus and Mary. And I just said, okay, we'll have you on the show, because I'm thinking it was going to be like the first book, and sometimes you make those assumptions. And my assumption was that she was going to talk about this very high vibration of a relationship using Jesus and Mary as the example, kind of the generic. And it was a channel book, and the book was like, well, Jesus and Mary went to 7-Eleven, and they got a Slurpee. And they took their Slurpee and a picnic basket up to the top of the hill and sat down with a blanket. And I was just like, I can't even interview this. I just can't even go there. And that was kind of how those people felt to me. Like kind of in that category. And like I said, those are my peeps. The new agey metaphysical people. They're my peeps. And I couldn't even go there.
I agree with you. I sometimes wonder, though. Okay, I'll give people the let me give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe some of these situations that they've experienced, maybe some of these situations that they've been put in, if we want to say that, maybe it's too overwhelming, Rita. Maybe they just don't know how to convey. I don't. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like overload. It would be like if we were abducted right now and just saw so much and brought back that you can't comprehend, or I don't know. I don't know. But I will agree. I mean, again, I'm not a skeptic, but I am skeptical. I like a little bit of proof, but then again, I always do throw in the okay. Well, maybe there is something to this.
And my concern is it just a way because someone said it and it resonated with them for them to put a label on what's going on or not going on in their lives? I've worked with a lot of people that have had attached entities and doing spirit removal work. And I get a ton of emails from people, and some people actually have issues. And then I have other people, and it's like they're certain they have an attached entity, but really their life just kind of sucks, and they're depressed, and they want to blame it on this thing because it's easier than taking responsibility for it themselves.
True.
And I'm not saying that that's them, you know what I mean? But that could be too. I mean, we're throwing out possibilities, so.
Right. No, I agree. I could have. I am open to possibilities. Again, I think some of it, and I would think you would agree that it's how maybe an individual interprets something, and maybe getting that out, is a little bit difficult. Maybe it's the explanation of the interpretation. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with I mean, you've talked about ufology. You've gone to all the different. You go to the conferences. You speak at the different conferences. Do you think that we heard for such a long time disclosure. I'm starting to believe now, as far as the United States government goes, in disclosure and somebody coming out and saying something about it. I really myself, my own personal belief is I don't think we're ever going to see that happen again, because I don't want to say that the government lied to us, but maybe they didn't disclose things for whatever reasons, whether that's for superior power, whether it's for greed, money, what have you. I think disclosure has kind of happened already. I think people have seen plenty of things. But what's your you think people are becoming more accepting to and not people listening to a show, not to these shows, this genre of shows, but do you think people in general are starting to be more open-minded and accept the possibilities that we are seeing visitors from other planets, other dimensions, other galaxies?
I mean, I think that is the case on one level, and I'm going to kind of put a little spin on it. I think if a UFO landed in anybody's backyard in the United States, they would all go, "Holy crap, it's a UFO."
Right.
So whether they believe in it in this moment or not, they would recognize it for what it is and then go from there.
Yeah, and if they can deal with the mental overload of it, I think, again, it would be overload for a lot of people. Well, as we talked about in the beginning of the program.
I don't think so. I think we've seen so many extraterrestrials and Star Trek, Star Wars, X-Files. I mean, the day the Earth stood still. I mean, we've seen so much.
Right.
That I don't think. I mean, I think there would be a certain amount of shock but I don't think it would be that bad.
I
I
agree.
don't think it would be that bad.
I agree. Maybe some of the older generation, maybe somebody
Mhm.
in their later years. I look at somebody like my mom. I don't know if well, I would say she'd accept it, but it would throw religious beliefs into it. If I guess it would depend on the depth of your religious belief and your open mindedness. I think people that are so engulfed by a particular religion that maybe it could throw them into a tailspin because it's not the written word or the spoken word. But I also,
Hey, if Mr. Spock walked off of a craft by my mom, she'd be so thrilled. And she's in her mid-80s.
yeah.
So,
Well, and there's I've read a lot of articles that have kind of led me to believe that the Vatican may be one of the first religious organizations that may lead up to coming out with things. And I really believe that if the powers to be, the higher ups of this planet, I don't want to say the decision makers, but the representatives of religions and governments, maybe if they were to come out and ease it out slowly and in the right way, it would be more acceptable to everybody. I don't know. I don't. I just hope that in our lifetime, in my lifetime, I believe that we're going to see an event. Yes, we've seen things. I've seen things in the sky that I know, as I've said so many times, I don't believe they are of this world. If they are of this world, we've got some pretty cool stuff. But I think I and a lot of others, we would like to. I think that's the human nature. We want to see something. We want to see something that is undeniable. That okay, we're not alone. There's other dimensions. Here it is. Boom. Everybody sees it together with their own eyes.
and I have been saying that I don't know if the government will do disclosure because I think people will get on that bandwagon and go, okay, so you lied to us about this,
Right.
and what else were you lying to us about? Dot dot dot, and here's this 5 million page list of stuff that we've been
Right.
lied to.
But Rita, have we now? Okay, you were honest about your interpretation of the hybrids in your talks with Miguel. You know this lying part. Now again, I don't want I've got a lot of friends. I've made a lot of acquaintances, people in the ufology field, some big names. Like a nuclear professor that resides in Canada and goes all over the world
Hmm.
and has been on television, and a lot of other people. And, yes, we see a lot of pieces of paper held up with black lines, but do you think that some of this lying, if you will, is maybe a little bit overplayed and a little maybe over fabricated by some of these individuals to maybe make a point that maybe isn't quite on par with what really is going on?
Short of the Stephenville incident, I don't know that we've had any other really big sighting. Not like the Phoenix Lights. If the Phoenix Lights happened today, and
Right.
the government came in and said, oh, it was, I want to say flashers, but that's not the right word. Whatever. Those light things that they dropped from the airplane. I don't think people would accept it. At that point in time, people were like, oh, okay, and they just took it. Today, I don't think people would accept that answer. I mean, I just interviewed Jim Fitzer about Sandy Hook.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want to get into that whole conversation, but
Oh, James Fetcher?
yeah,
Yeah, he's interesting.
and that gets thrown up on the table. You know, how much crap are they throwing out at us?
Yeah.
That we just have to grin and bear and take the spin on it. I mean, I watch the news anymore, and some news story comes up and go, well, I wonder what really happened.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. That's true. No, I just sometimes think the non-disclosure thing, though, in some cases, in some instances, is spun up a little bit heavy. And again, yeah, you can have some figures of authority that come out and make some general statements. But, you know, I've never, I guess what I'm saying, just to play devil's advocate here tonight, you know, I never heard, you know, the president of the United States get up and say, well, Roswell didn't exist. That's all hocus pocus. No, I don't think that's ever been said. Yeah, there's been committees put together. I think sometimes, Rita, it's the, you know, anything that gets hidden in a little bit of secrecy, if there's a little bit of secrecy there, whether it's there for the benefit of people or not. And again, we're looking at 1947 mentality versus current day, not mentality, but thinking. Back then, you know, some of those things, they're kind of scary. And maybe, I know this is against the grain of everything I say, but maybe back then things needed to be kind of quiet. Maybe everybody didn't need to know. And then we fall into that, you know, trench. And I don't say it's necessarily a trench of lies, but we fall into that groove that, this is just the best way to handle it. Well, times have changed, and people are being more open-minded. And maybe the powers to be need to change a little bit too.
I just think it's interesting is that sightings have occurred for forever. And I would love to go back into the mind of someone who had a sighting in the late 1800s, before airships, so before the time where there was anything in the sky other than birds. And they have a sighting, and what are they thinking then? Today, we all, you know, you see anything in the sky, it's like, oh, it's a UFO. All right, not that I've ever seen anything in the sky, but that would be our knee-jerk reaction. But what did somebody back then, in the 1860s, think?
Right. Oh, I agree.
You just want to know? You know, because they just reported, I mean, there were newspaper reports of individuals having these sightings of, you know, reputable people reporting these sightings, you know, but they don't say it was extraterrestrials. You know, it was just some light, and they watched it move through the sky and do these maneuver things or whatever. And they didn't seem too freaked out about it.
Yeah.
But it did make the newspaper.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look at the mentality back then of what they call it, the Battle of Los Angeles. There was something in the air, and what did the military do? They, instead of letting it come across or fly across. Now, again, we were in a different mindset at the time. What did the military do? They opened fire on this thing.
But wasn't that during kind of the height of the Cold War?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, yeah, I think it was actually, wasn't it a little prior to that?
Oh,
I don't know the exact dates.
I don't know either.
Right, I don't know either. Some people made some good statements in chat. Neutron said, disclosure probably will demonstrate crimes against humanity such as deliberate withholding of technology that could end world starvation. I agree with that. I would really hope that technology would help the people of the world. But I think what's really sad about it, and when we touched on this in a little earlier on, different subjects, is again, it just like within the medical profession. I fully believe, my own thoughts, there is a cure for cancer. I think there's a cure for obesity. I think there's a pill that you could probably take that would help you out. Doesn't mean you're going to be skinny tomorrow or you're going to be cancer-free tomorrow, but I believe there are things out there. But just think about if they made the pill that everybody could take to make them skinny and healthy. What do you think would happen to the sales of Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, Diet Soda, diet products? I mean, it's a billion-dollar industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. And sadly, the powers to be, and the powers to be can even be defined as just greed in general, would be affected so adversely.
Well, skip the diet pill. Oh, and hi, Neutron. Um, we are, if you walk through the supermarkets, they're horrendous. You watch TV and it's horrendous. There are the reasons why we get sick. It's either accidental,
Mm-hmm.
viral, genetic. I throw in the energetic, which is the biggest part. But I have added, which the energetic in the medical world doesn't exist, and I've added a separate category that they don't even touch, and that is neglect.
Right.
That we neglect our bodies and we fill it full of crap.
Yes.
So maybe we wouldn't need all of these pills if we were eating good, but we don't eat good because we can go get these convenience foods that are filled with sugar and filled with salt and filled with chemicals that keep us addicted to them.
Right.
Which will kill us.
Well, I can tell you, I know for myself, I don't want to say that I'm addicted to it, but if it's in the house, I like diet soda. It tastes terrible, but I like it. And I'll tell you what, if there's a 12-pack in the fridge, I'll go through it. I just will. There's something in there.
Yes.
There's something
there. I know.
There's something there that draws to it, and I believe, and I'm not a doctor, but I believe that one chemical that starts with an A, aspartame, when you look, one time I took an actual diet can of soda, and I sat there and I Googled all the ingredients, and there's percentiles. Some of those chemicals in there are the same chemicals that are used in some antidepressant type drugs. So I truly believe, I guess to come right out with it and say that I believe there is something pumped into that can that affects your mind, that makes you want to go have another one, even though it tastes horrible.
I'm going to totally date myself, but I used to drink diet beverages before aspartame, and they were the same.
Like Tab? Isn't that the most horrid thing in the world? But yet when I was young, we used to drink that. When I was young, we didn't drink a lot of soda. My mom didn't have it in the house. But every now and then, we got that bright pink can of Tab. It was horrible. Mm-hmm. Horrible. But yes,
yeah, it was.
It. But yes, we did.
Yeah. Anyway, so we talk about, this greed. I think that there is a lot that happens behind the scenes that we just never know about, or we find out way after the fact. I think about Monsanto and mm-hmm. all of the GMOs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There was a gentleman in Canada, and he was a bee farmer. He had beehives.
Right.
And he had like 95 million. It was an astronomical number. 95 million bees die. And he was living right next door to a crop that had been recently planted with Monsanto products. And most of his bees died. Everybody else around the world seems to think that there's a problem, but we don't think that there's a problem. Well, I remember when, Fukushima happened, and I'll never forget this. It was the funniest thing I ever saw, and it was one of those things that you wish you had recorded so that you could, play it over and over again or put it up on the internet. It was a news report, and they were talking about there was more radiation in a banana than what we will be exposed to in the United States as the radioactive cloud and the water came over to the United States. A banana. Really?
Yeah. Sad.
No. Big fat lie.
Yeah. No, I agree. We've got a couple minutes left. This 2 hours went way too quick. We've got to do this again down the road and solve the world's problems, Dr. Reed.
Okay. That sounds good.
Why don't you throw out to our listeners again, where can they get your books and your films and your radio show? Let's talk about that again for the next couple minutes.
Okay. The best site to go to would be soulhealer.com, but if you don't remember that, just type Rita Louise, RitaLouise.com. You'll find me. I'm really easy to find. The radio show is Just Energy Radio. You can go to justenergyradio.com to access the shows. It airs live on Thursday evenings from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or you can go to YouTube and check them out on YouTube as well. You can become an energy healer, intuitive counselor, or medical intuitive by going to AppliedEnergeticsInstitute.com. And you can also always send me an email and set up a time for a private consultation. You can do that on the soulhealer.com website.
Are you going to do some events this year?
I will be at the History Haunts and Legends Conference actually in 2 weeks, and they're going to love this because this isn't playing on IRN. In spooky Jefferson, Texas. And then I love saying it that way, and they always would laugh at me. Spooky, that's right. And then I will be at Paradigm Symposium May 13th through 16th. That's what I got coming up soon.
Well, sounds good, and we would love to. I need to get out and about. This year has been crazy for. Well, it's always crazy, but one of these days, I've been doing this show for 7 years now plus, and I need to get to some of these conferences. Although I don't know, maybe it's good to be an outsider and look in. Rita, thank you so much for being here tonight. On your website, it says, just like Halley's Comet, she's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and that is so true. And again, it's such an honor. Your honesty is amazing. It emanates everywhere, and your sincerity, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time and being here. And down the road, maybe in summer or fall, whatever, let's get you back on again, and let's just throw it around a little bit more. I had such a good time.
Sounds perfect. Thanks, Pat. Bye, everybody.
Okay, my friend, God bless. Take care, be good, and we'll stay in touch.